Today, we're diving into a landmark Supreme Court case that's just fascinating. It starts as a simple business auction for a national treasure, but it quickly spirals into this high-stakes constitutional showdown. It's a story all about nationalism, economics, and the true power of a country's founding document.
And that brings us to the core question of this whole thing. Can a nation's constitution actually reach into a corporate boardroom and pick a winner? Even if that winner didn't have the highest bid? Well, let's find out.
So our story really centers on a national institution, the Manila Hotel. And you have to understand, this was not just any old piece of property. For so many, it was the very heart and soul of the nation's capital, a landmark completely steeped in history. In fact, the Supreme Court itself called it a living testimonial of Philippine heritage. And that description, it's absolutely crucial, because it takes the hotel from being just a commercial asset and elevates it to something much, much more important. Something deeply tied to national identity.
And man, what a history it has seen. I mean, from the birth of the Commonwealth to the chaos of World War II, from being the hub of political conventions to hosting world leaders, this building has been front and center for the Philippine story for decades. It's so much more than a hotel. It's practically a vault of national memory.
So, in 1995, the government gets this idea. As part of a big privatization push, it decides, through its pension fund, the GSIS, to put a controlling 51% stake in the hotel up for public bidding. And this one decision, well, it was about to set off a legal firestorm.
All right, so with the hotel officially on the auction block, the stage was set for a real bidding battle. Two main players emerged, both pre-qualified and ready to go for it. One was a Filipino corporation, and the other a foreign firm.
When the bids finally came in, the numbers seemed pretty straightforward. The local company, Manila Prince Hotel, bid 41.58 pesos per share. But the Malaysian firm, Renong Berhad, came in higher with a bid of 44 pesos per share.
So, based on pure economics, the outcome was simple, right? Renong and Berhad had the highest bid, and in any normal auction, that would have been the end of the story. But, as you've probably guessed, this was no normal auction.
Just as the deal with the Malaysian firm was about to be sealed, Manila Prince Hotel played an unbelievable card. They didn't just try to negotiate a better deal. No, they went straight to the Philippine Constitution itself. And this right here, this is the exact text at the very heart of the case. It's from Article 12, Section 10 of the Constitution, and it's known as the Filipino First policy. The big question that was about to consume everyone was, what does preference actually mean when you're in the middle of a bidding war?
So here's how it all blew up. First, Manila Prince offered to match the higher bid, the 44 pesos per share. To show they were serious, they sent over a check for 33 million pesos, but the government refused to accept it. So Manila Prince didn't back down. They took their fight all the way to the highest court in the land. And this set the stage for a huge legal battle. On one side, you had Manila Prince arguing that the Filipino First Clause was a direct command. They said it applied to national patrimony like the hotel, which gave them the right to match the winning bid. But on the other side, the government had a more pragmatic take. They argued, hey, that clause is just a guideline. It's not a hard rule. Plus, this is just a sale of corporate shares. They were worried that changing the rules after the fact would scare away foreign investors and mess up their whole privatization plan.
So with all the arguments laid out, pretty much the whole country held its breath. The Supreme Court was about to decide if the Constitution could actually step into a business deal and change the outcome. The stakes were just incredibly high.
And then the verdict came down, and it was a shocker. The Supreme Court ruled in favor of Manila Prince Hotel. The Filipino bidder, even though they had lost the auction, had just won the war. The big question was, how?
So to really get this stunning outcome, we have to unpack the court's reasoning, because this is where the real legal precedent was set. They didn't just pick a winner, they defined what that Filipino First policy truly means for everyone. Okay, first, the court went right after the government's main argument. They declared that the Filipino First policy is a self-executing provision. Now, this is a really powerful legal concept. It means that clause isn't just a friendly suggestion for lawmakers to maybe think about later. Nope, it's a direct, enforceable command that applies right now, whether or not there's a specific law about it. Second, they had to define national patrimony, and the court's ruling was expansive. They said it's not just about things like mines, forests, or natural resources. It also includes the nation's cultural heritage. And because of its deep, rich history, the court officially recognized the Manila Hotel as part of that patrimony. The court also made crystal clear that government-owned corporations, like the GSIS in this case, are not exempt from this. They are part of the state, and that means they are absolutely bound to follow the Constitution in everything they do, including their business deals.
So all of this led the court to lay out exactly what preference means in the real world. They basically created a clear 4-step rule. In a sale involving national patrimony, if a foreigner outbids a qualified Filipino, that Filipino must be given the chance to match the highest bid. And if they do, the award must go to them. It's a concrete procedural right, not just a vague idea.
You see, this verdict wasn't just about who got to own a hotel. It was about the powerful legal legacy this decision would leave behind. A legacy that continues to shape business and law in the Philippines to this day.
This quote from the decision just perfectly captures the spirit of the ruling. The court was basically saying that the Constitution isn't some dusty document just for politicians and lawyers. Its principles are like an invisible, unbreakable clause written into every single government contract and law.
So let's just quickly recap the major legal ideas cemented by this case. First, the Filipino First policy is a direct, enforceable command. Second, national patrimony is a broad term that includes cultural heritage. Third, government corporations are part of the state and have to follow the Constitution. And finally, the most practical point. In bids for national patrimony, Filipinos have the right to match the highest foreign bid.
And so the court's final order was direct and left no room for doubt. It commanded the government to stop the sale to the Malaysian firm and to formally accept the matching bid from Manila Prince Hotel. And with that, their victory was final. But this case leaves us with a huge, ongoing question. It perfectly frames that tension between protecting your national identity and heritage on one hand and the very real, pragmatic need to compete in a global economy on the other. Where do you draw that line? That's the challenge this landmark decision really leaves for all of us to think about.